I think his biggest attribute was his sound, you know? There's a lot of guys who can play as quickly as he can, but his sound was is the biggest thing. When I first heard Donna Lee, it just sounded like a bass player playing any crazy notes he could think of, you know? Because I didn't know anything about bebop, so it just sounded like random notes, you know? And Jocko's sound, because up to then I had been listening to Stanley Clarke, I've been listening to Larry Graham, I've been listening to guys who play with a very bright sound. So to hear Jocko's sound, it sounded very dull to me, you know, because I was used to the more bright sound. But the sound grew on me, you know. I kept listening and listening, and then I began to learn bebop. And once I learned Donna Lee, what it really was, then I could really appreciate Jocko's version of it. So, you know, it took me a few months to understand what he was doing, but every time I heard it, I appreciated it more. So it really grew on me. I was in LA, I was playing with Roberta Flack, who's a fantastic, legendary singer, and I was on the road with her. I was pretty young, I was probably 21 years old. Matter of fact, I was just turning 21. And we came to Los Angeles and we checked into a hotel, and I went to my room and I got a call, my phone rang, and I said, hello, and it was Jocko. He said, Marcus, I'm in room 219. Come up here and get your lesson. And I laughed, you know, I said, this guy, man, he's crazy. But I got myself up to 219, you know, and I hung out. He was there with his wife, and we were just talking, man. He was very nice. He had his bass, and he played stuff for me, and I played for him. You know, I was like, he said, yeah, I can do that. I just don't do that, you know. And I said, yeah, I know, you probably could do it. But he showed me exercise for my fingers, you know, he said, he showed me a whole tone exercise that I still use to practice today. He made it okay for bass players to solo, you know, he made it okay for bass players to use a slightly thinner sound, you know. He really changed things. Unfortunately, he was like Billy Cobham, because Billy Cobham did the same thing for drummers. And after Billy Cobham, you found all these drummers, man, on these R&B gigs trying to play like Billy Cobham, and they were losing their job. They were getting fired because it wasn't appropriate for the R&B music. And a lot of bass players, I think, got fired from their jobs as well, using that thinner Jocko sound and playing all those notes. So I think that he had like a negative influence too, with bass players who were saying, hey, this is what I want to do regardless of what situation I'm in. So you have to be careful. You know, before Jocko, there weren't that many people who had personality on the bass, on the electric bass. You know, they played it, but you never could recognize a guy just by his sound on the electric bass, except for Stanley Clarke. He's the only guy I could really recognize. Everybody else, they just sounded like you had to listen to them for a long time to figure out who they were. So I think he really encouraged future bass players to have personality on the bass, so try to bring out their personality. You know, he has music that has depth, but he's also, you know, he plays things that catch a young ear. You know what I mean? He plays like harmonics, and he plays with distortion, and he plays with all these things that a young person will go, oh, that's cool, you know? But after they get initially brought in, then they can start to begin to appreciate the deeper aspects of his music too. So he had an appeal on every level, and I think that's what makes his music last. A musician's most valuable asset is his imagination, you know? And Jocko had a tremendous imagination, and that's what separates him from everybody else who tries to sound like him. They have the technique, they have the proper bass, they have everything, but they just don't have anything interesting to play. And this is the problem. You have to study music. So I'll tell guys, you know, he said, I'm a bass player. I said, okay, good. Do you play the piano? And they go, no. I said, well, just so you know, Charlie Mingus, Stanley Clarke, Jaco Pastorius, they all play the piano. And they learn harmony, they learn music, not just on the bass. So when they pick up the bass, they know how their instrument fits in with it. The last time I saw him was before he died, maybe 3 months before he died. He wasn't doing so well. He was in the Village, Greenwich Village area in New York, and he was just kind of hanging around, looking kind of homeless, and he invited me to his house, which was very small. It was like the size of this area, and but he said, man, I just want to let you know, man, how much I respect you, man. I think you're a fantastic musician. And I was very, very honored that he would say something like that to me, And you could tell that he was saying something that he had wanted to say for a long time, And so I very much value that, And like I said, a few months later, he died. So that was the last time I saw him. That's the last thing I heard from him. So it's very nice, The song's called Mr.Pastorius. It's on your last album, Maam으로, right? I wrote the song, and I wrote it for Miles to play. I wrote it for Jaco, but I was hoping that Miles would play it. And when I brought it to Miles, I didn't know how Miles felt about Jaco, because we never talked really much about him. So he said, Marcus, what's the name of this song? We were already kind of playing it. He said, what's the name of the song? And I said, well, I've got 2 titles. One is we can call it Mr.Pastorius, or we can call it Rain. Simply Rain, because it started off with the sound of water, And he said, no, I think that would be really nice to do that for Jaco. And I was very, very pleased that Miles, wanted to do a song that was a dedication to Jaco as well. So that's how it happened. I miss him crashing into my gigs, you know what I mean? Like, I miss him. He used to just show up on my gigs, man, unannounced, and just plug into my amp and turn all the knobs up, man, and just start jamming. He didn't care. He knew, he had free reign with me, so he'd just come in and just go crazy. It was fantastic to hang out with him and talk to him, you know what I mean? And I think that's what I miss the most.